Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Grand Swiss of 2023. This is a chess tournament with an open section and a women's section, and the top two finishers make it to the candidates tournament. This is a massive event. $600,000 worth of prizes are at stake and a qualification spot to the tournament where the winner plays against the world chess champion. This is the round number 2 recap. And we are starting off with a very spicy game. Hans Niemann, the man, the myth, the legend, taking on Fabiano Caruana, the #1 ranked player in the entire tournament. This is a big game. Can't really understate it. And there's going to be other epic games in this recap, some ridiculous checkmates, some tactical back and forth battles. Let's jump into it. That's the whole introduction, less than a minute. If you're watching this the first couple of days that it comes out, you know that my new book came out a couple of days ago, and I just want to say thank you. Those of you that have ordered this book got it up to number 25 on Amazon, which is crazy because it's all really famous authors up there and a lot of self-help books and Britney Spears memoir. And so thank you. And if you've gotten it, do me a favor, if you could, like after this video, just write a nice review. I mean, I'm hoping you're enjoying reading the book and the QR codes are working well and it's a pleasant read and it's maybe elucidating in some capacity. So drop a little 5-star, a little nice thing up there because it actually really does help. So after the video though, first let's watch the recap. Fabiano opens up with pawn to e4 and Hans plays e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. One thing to note, Fabiano has amassed, I don't know why I said it like that, amassed a 4-0 score against Hans Niemann. There is clearly something here. I mean, these chess players might deny it, but you got to remember there is a bit of a history here. When the cheating scandal broke out in September 2022, that's when Fabiano's podcast started. They were going to probably start it anyway with him and Christian Kirilla. It's called C Squared, by the way. They interviewed me on it. Great guys. Fabiano's a super nice guy. And so is Christian, and they've interviewed me on it, and great podcast. Check it out. Check that out after you write the review. So that's your homework after this video. But they launched it right during the cheating scandal. So he has been talking about Hans a lot, you know, and he was still more neutral, I think, than some folks and whatever. But knight to f6 played in this game by Hans, going for a Berlin, and we have pawn to d3, and bishop takes and d takes. And this is a very, very spicy position, very theoretical position, where black will put his knight on d7 and figure out the development of his pieces, whether he'll play pawn to f6, reroute this knight somewhere, put the bishop on e6. Very spicy position, very theoretical position. But Fabiano has scored very well against Hans over their last encounters. h3 is a move that controls the g4 square. Knight to d7, knight c3 developing, castles, and castles as well by Fabiano. Okay. Black has accepted a damage to his structure over here. White has a very solid setup where he controls the light squares from the development of the light squared bishop. And maybe he's going to reroute the knight there. Maybe he's going to play f4. Maybe black is going to play for f5. Black doesn't have another central pawn, so he is feeling a little bit of the pressure. Knight to f8, knight c4. And now Fabi does something interesting. He strikes in the center. Now, he spent 9 minutes on that move, right? Plays pawn to d4. Very tense moment in this game. Black has the option to capture, but that would allow white to get the queen in the game. And maybe Fabi's idea was to take this first. If something like queen takes d6, you can go for takes or bishop takes. And a position that looks like this, where white maybe has some advantage. But I think after something like f5, takes and maybe bishop takes, I don't see any advantage for black. So it is interesting what Fabi's exact idea was after pawn takes d4, because instead of that, Hans just kept the tension. He thought for 12 minutes himself, and he decided, I'm not going to take on d4. But again, I don't know. I don't know if Fabi was going to take this or just go queen d4 and then try to improve. But Hans could have very quickly tried to make a bunch of trades. Instead, he keeps the tension, and that lets Fabi play d5. And now we have a very different type of position. Position changes character a lot here. And it's opposite colored bishops. Like if the knights were to get traded somehow, let's just very hypothetically say something like take. I guess this would be losing a pawn, but let's just say something like this became the position. It's very drawish. Long-term, opposite colored bishop endgame, despite the imbalances, very drawish. Where it's not drawish is if black goes here and then takes the knight on d5 like this. That is a crazy decision. Like, because the idea is very simply, if white takes, black is going to just go f5. Like, that is the point. But that is a monster decision to take that knight. That is a huge decision, because white never actually loses control of the territory, and this is just under fire for the rest of the game. This structure closely, with no c-pawn, resembles the Najdorf Sicilian. In the Najdorf Sicilian, not to make such a huge, divergence, but it is important that you understand what I'm talking about. In the Najdorf, sometimes this is the structure. The pawn a6 gets played. You play a6, but this is the structure, and there's no c-pawn. Look at the structure that we have in the game. It's the same structure. So when white ends up getting total dominance in the center, he then has very easy play. Hans tries to solve it tactically. He's like, all right, I'm going to get rid of my pawn. I'm going to be completely fine. But here's the problem. On an open board, the bishop is better than the knight in the endgame. It just is. It's a faster piece. And white has something in this endgame called queenside majority. So this is pure endgame stuff. Bishop is better than knight on an open board, and a queenside majority. So a queen trade might benefit white because we're going deeper into the endgame, but keeping the queens on the board is even more instructive, because now the queen goes to g4. The queens are doing totally different things. Rook d8, rook d1. Fabiano accurately seizes control of the file because queen d8 is a massive threat. White is just too fast. White is just too fast. And the thing is, you can try to trade the queens. I don't know how you would do that, but you can try to trade the queens. Like, let's just say something like this. Again, very hypothetical. That is checkmate. But let's just say like a3, king f8, take. This is still always better for white because you'll end up taking this pawn. And if something like this is the position, white is still playing for a win because white has the 3 pawns over here, but the chances are high that it's a draw. My point is, after this, Fabi just goes straight at Hans's king. b3 seals out the queen. Look at his knight. Look at Hans's knight on h8. Fabi just slowly, look at it, wins all the pawns. And now he's got 2 passed pawns on the queen side, and they just go. And Fabiano Caruana makes it look absolutely effortless. Wins a beautiful positional game against Hans Niemann, and he's back to 2,800. Fabiano is now 2,801. He has gained 50 rating points in something like a year, because he had a slump. He was 2,800. When he played Magnus Carlson for the World Championship, he was like 28. His rating was so high. When he played against Magnus, it was such a high rating. It was ridiculous. And he's been as high as like 2851, which is the 3rd highest rating of all time. Kasparov was 2856. Magnus 2889 unofficially. Officially 2882. Caruana and Magnus, the only 2 2800s remaining in the world. This man, Fabi, is on one. He is cooking. And he's not telling you what the ingredients are. I mean, my goodness, this man is, he's letting the taste of the food speak for itself. He's 2 out of 2. Meanwhile, Hikaru was in his own battle against Raunik Sadani on the black side here. It's tough to win with black, especially if you try to play the Sicilian and your opponent goes here. You'll remember yesterday that Fabiano opponent played knight f3. That was Šarić. Fabi played for a win with black. Hikaru clearly came to play for a win, and he wanted a Najdorf or a Taimanov, but his opponent goes c3. You can't beat c3. That's the summary of this game. The Alpine Sicilian at top level is not quite a try for an advantage, much more a try for just a solid game, and a game that you probably can't lose, but it's going to be tough to win. Hikaru still plays for a win. He still plays G6 is not a solid move. Black here normally will just play like the knights and focus on the center. And there's a lot of theoretical lines. Some are poisonous. There are some lines where white can play knight a3, for example. But G6, knight f3, and yeah, there's a line CD, knight b5, knight a6. You'll notice Hikaru spending no time at all. Knight f6. And this very provocative approach is still completely tamed. The queens are having a staring contest. Hikaru's opponent is down like 40 minutes on the clock, Sadani, and he plays queen h4. Hikaru's still trying to play for a win. He's still trying to keep the position in balance, has the cannon pointed over there. But if you mess around too long, your opponent's going to get a good position. And that's kind of what happened. Sadani got a very pleasant position from the opening. And Hikaru here was at some risk of actually getting under severe pressure. If white got to double and transfer his pieces over here, h3, like rook e2 and rook e1, and very nice position for white. And then rook b6, rook e3, rook d6, rook e... And the players made a draw. That's weird. That's Raunik's fault, for the record. Raunik is a great player. I'm not saying he did anything wrong, but this is not a position where Hikaru is going to call the shots. You know, rook e3, and Hikaru plays rook d6, improving. Maybe already there was no way to make progress. And what I mean by that is, let's say it was a knight g5. Okay, take. Where's the attack? Black's still going to go rook d6. Where's the attack? Now, of course, if this is like a must-win, if Raunik has to win or the universe explodes, he's going to play on. But he just figures, look, draw against 2780, like, it's fine. And I only have 13 minutes. At the end of the game, he only had 13 minutes remaining, so... But this was Hikaru's game. I mean, not particularly eventful. I mean, he tried to play for a win. He tried to play for a win multiple times in this game. Hard to play for a win, especially if your opponent just kind of wants to be solid. It is what it is. So Hikaru with 2 draws. This game was unbelievable. This was Predka versus Jan Krzysztof Duda. This game was lunatic stuff. Jan Krzysztof yesterday won an absurd game. That was against Puya Idani from Iran, where he promoted the 2 queens. Duda, very, very crazy player. Here he plays the Vienna. This is the Vienna for black, where you play DC and bishop b4, and then you grab this pawn on e4, and you go back. And you basically are playing very provocatively because white now gets very active play. Queen c2, knight and a rook here, knight e5. Queen c2 is a rare move. I don't know this move. I mean, I'm much more used to seeing the queen go there, but in general, you know, that's the setup that white is taking with a knight on e5, and then white plays rook d3. So white tries to transfer the rook. He basically says, you know, you can get something like this, but with black, I'm going to go here. You're going to try not to get mated. I'm going to sacrifice so you can get mated, and then I'm going to win. Duda defends himself. Predka just creates an attack. Then Predka transfers the queen. He gets a very big pawn move out of Duda. So now he controls the center very well. He brings his bishop, and he stops Duda from advancing on the queen side. Now he brings his other rook. So now all of Predka's pieces are standing, primed, ready to go to create problems for black on the king side. C6, it looks like everything is good for Duda. Everything is safe. G4, just when you thought you were controlling all of white's infiltration spots, right? Looks like white can't really do a whole lot here. Everything is nice, everything is good. But my friends, if you want to start an attack in chess, you start with the pawns. It's a microcosm for the real world. Governmental leaders don't fight each other. They do all of these phony peace summits. They send the pawns out to battle. That's really what this is all about. That's the reality of the world that we live in. It's really unfortunate, but this is a chess channel, so I'm just going to focus on pawn to g4. All right? G4 played. Bishop takes, D takes, to now make sure that's no longer just a little isolated pawn in the center, but it's controlling black. This bishop is not going to get out. This bishop is going to slide backwards. Duda's pieces look good, but they're all artifacts. They're just standing around. Look at this knight ready to go to D6, to G5. Now here comes the queen. Duda is up 2 pawns for a moment. But in this position, Bishop c2, and we're ready. We are absolutely ready to go. Look, there's some crazy tactics here, like rook takes h7, and then a double check. Knight to f6 from the bishop and the knight. You can't go here. King to h8, and it's checkmate in 2 moves. Rook h5, queen h5 from Russia with love, or Serbia, because Predka has changed his federation, like a lot of Russian players over the last several years, for obvious reasons. Knight c4 is played by black, bishop to g5, rook e2, g6, and Predka just gets in on the dark squares. 3 pawns down, no problem. Knight takes h5, bishop h6, double check, a brutal double check, setting up queen here. Queen g7, and Duda resigns because king e8, queen f8. What a game from Predka. Oh, put him in the pockets. What an incredible game. What more can you say? What more can you say? Look at this, fantastic. Just g4, that's when you knew things were dangerous. Duda played with fire. Duda got burned. Credit to Predka. What an amazing game. We're going to pop over to the women's side because this was one of the most insane chess games I think I've ever seen. This is Mihaela Sandu versus Irina Bulaga. They're actually both Romanian. It's a shame they make 2 players from the same place trying to make it, you know, into the next level for their careers play against each other, but it is what it is. It's a Spanish, and again, One of the most popular openings that exists, but this game by Black was very provocative. She played d6 and she played f5. And this game got crazy. fe4, knight g5, pawn takes d4, Black just chopping everything in the center, and then playing d5, completely not paying attention to development. White has queen h5, White has all sorts of pressure. White plays c4, trying to completely explode the center of the board. No pawn intended. Oh my god, that was a double pawn. Pawn. Did I just solve society? Like, did I just solve everything? No pawn intended. That was, whew. No pawn intended, and c4 trying to explode the center. Oh my. Oh my. Whew. I gotta take a nap. c4, b5, counter explosion. Take. Knight to e7. Look at Black's center. And White can play this move, queen d4. You can't take me because you're pinned, but I'm gonna go bishop a6. So knight takes e4, White sacrifices a full knight to give this check and slide the queen to e5 with pressure here and pressure here. Bishop c6 is a threat because of the pin. So Black sacrifices the rook in the corner and then runs to the other side. Oh my god, and the evaluation is roughly equal. What the heck is going on? Queen h7, the knight goes to e5, Black is ready with the cannons. But it's bishop f4 and White is the one winning. White can play bishop c4 or rook c1, threatening a checkmate. White's attack is actually more potent. Black's position looks really good, but it's not very easy to mobilize. Queen a5. White gives a check, and in this position has a winning idea. Pawn to b4, deflecting the queen from the defense of the knight. If queen here, bishop e5 with pressure, and if bishop d6, you just trade everything. You go here, and you just trade everything down. You don't even have to take, but you can. Apparently your advantage goes down a little bit, but you can play like rook c1 instead of that. And if b4, by the way, bishop takes b4, then knight c4. And the idea is just simply you opened up this. You opened up the b file. So b4 is like a poison pawn. If you take it, White gets the b file. Mihaela waits. She plays this first, and then after this, and then after bishop d6, now she plays b4. But now Black can go queen b6. You see, the idea of playing b4 earlier is that the queen had to guard the knight. If queen b6, free knight. Free knight. I mean, you can't go here because of queen c7. So she waited a little too long, and now Black gets solid. And let me tell you, after Black gets solid, Black's going to start attacking. Black centralizes. White plays a little too slowly. Now bishop g7. That queen is looking really stuck. Rook h8. Oh my goodness. The bishop goes to seal the rook from going to the corner, but now Black starts knocking. Pawn to e3, fe3, removing the defender of the g3 square. Now g5 and g2 are hanging, and this pawn can always come promote as well. Bishop d5, Black grabs a bishop, and now threatening to trap the queen again. Queen g7, White sacrifices the queen to get a rook. And a little bit more, but there's no more threats. Rook b8, a move away from checkmate. Queen takes e3 as a check, and the pawn blocks. And in this position, White resigned because knight to g3 is just simply mate. What a crazy game. Irina Bulaga surviving like an apocalyptic game. That was like, you know, every man, woman, and child for themselves. Like, that was, all the pieces were scattered all over the place. It was a crazy, crazy game. And it's decided ultimately by the White King succumbing to the pressure before the Black King does. I got more exciting chess for you. Alireza Firouzja, all eyes on him, like all eyes are on Fabiano, Hikaru, and Prague. I mean, all of the young Indians as well. This one was against Rauf Mamedov, strong Azerbaijani grandmaster. And it's an accelerated dragon with a slightly weird move order, which began like an English. c4, c5, symmetrical English. It's now knight c3, knight takes d4, and this setup with d6, bishop g7, and then this bishop will come to e6. I promise. It's gonna happen. Yeah, there it is. So this is a very well-known position. As you can see, neither side is thinking too much. Okay, b3, Black plays knight d7, but, you know, rook c8 and b5 are also ideas. Knight d7 played by Rauf, and Rauf is gonna obviously apply some pressure over here. Queen e3, rook c1, king h1, f6, and Firouzja takes as much space as possible because he wants to create an attack. and puts his knight on d5. So Firouzja has basically done everything that he is supposed to do in the dragon. He has a slightly better position. Black is going to rely on queenside pawn counterplay with pressure with the rook and the knight. So also, Mamedov is down a ridiculous amount on the clock, and he makes a very big decision. Remember, like Hans made a very big decision when he took on d5. Huge decision, gaping holes on e6 and f7. Bishop is coming, queen is coming, but knight goes back to f8, and Ralph is basically saying, I'm just gonna wait and see. All right, I am not worried. Firouzja now makes an even bigger decision. Firouzja does not like this queen. He thinks he can win a queenless endgame. Rooks, knight, and bishop versus rooks and bishop. I'm not sure he had to do that. I mean, Firouzja could have played rook c2. I think he was just slightly concerned over maybe black creating some counterplay down the center against this queen, but there was no need. He could have probably kept it more complicated, but he says, you know what? No queens, no problem. Black plays a5 and a4, looking to separate these pawns to create some weaknesses. Alireza is like, okay, free pawn. Bozo, like, okay, but you gave me a pawn, no problem. I got a free pawn now. Now, what would work really well for black is opposite colored bishops. I've told you about this many, many times. Opposite colored bishops would be really great here for black. Something like rook c5, and this position is just a dead draw because it's impossible for white to make any progress, too many pawn weaknesses, and opposite colored bishops. So Firouzja needs to keep some, tension on the board, some imbalances on the board. Rook c3 is like, I'm not giving the pawn away. I'm not giving the pawn away. I have an outside pass pawn. I'm not giving the pawn away. But Mamedov has done a great job, and he's got no time, though. He's got 3 minutes. Mamedov is doing a nice job. He's keeping the position solid, tight. Bishop takes h4, rook takes a3. Alireza's got nothing. He's got absolutely nothing. He's not getting anywhere, and, maybe he's going to overextend and blunder. And this, my friends, is the most important move of the game. In this position, black plays knight to d3, attacking white's rook, and putting an eye on everything. And white can't really play a move like rook e3 because bishop d4. So knight d3 is played, and Alireza gets close. Right, completely equal, knight d3, rook e6. Mamedov has 1 minute and 48 seconds to make his move, or he's going to lose on time. But when he makes his 40th move, he gets an extra 30 minutes, I believe. That's how chess works. On the 40th move of the game, you get extra time. So he just lazily plays knight c5. I'm not calling him lazy. I'm just saying it's a very, you jump in, you jump out. Easy. Probably thinking the rook has to go. And thinking bishop f6, knight e6. If pawn takes, I take the bishop. He lost. He lost the game after knight c5. He could have played bishop takes, and then knight... Well, actually, that would... Never mind, the pawn is hanging. He could have played take, and then knight e5 or knight f4. It was a dead draw. Knight e5, draw. He plays knight c5, missing. Bishop takes f6. And the point is that you cannot take this because of bishop to b2. The bishop escapes, hitting the rook, and then this is a check. And white would get 2 bishops for a rook and be winning. Rauf Mamedov lost this game on the final move. The final move of the game. He had 1 minute and 48 seconds. He worked so hard. He played a great defensive game. Bishop f6. He tried to sack his rook like to create something, but rook takes e7, and after this rook is still hanging. If you take that rook, I will take yours. So take rook f4. Alireza escapes with 2 pawns. And in this position, Rauf Mamedov simply resigned the game because Alireza is just going to go here. There's nothing you can do. There is no checkmate. Alireza is not going to hang his rook. He's going to go here. This is not even a fork. Heartbreaking. Mamedov did a great job. Alireza wins. And he is back in business, 1.5 out of 2. And the final game that I have for you is one of the most... It's an incredible developing storyline in this tournament. Some of you may remember how about a week or 2 ago, Magnus Carlson lost to a young Kazakh player by the name of Alisher Suleymanov. This is Ramzan Zhalmakhanov. He's not even a grandmaster. He's also just about 20 years of age. He's rated 3,000 online. You look at his chess.com account, he has a 3,000 blitz rating. In the first round of this tournament, he defeated a 2650. He defeated a 2650 rated grandmaster. Pichot, Alan Pichot, Argentinian grandmaster, I think now representing Spain. And in this game, Ramzan Jalmakhanov plays a Spanish. It is a classical Spanish, a very popular Spanish. Knight to b8, the Briar, chosen by Bassem Amin, who holds, he's the only 2700 from Africa. He's an Egyptian grandmaster. He's a doctor, by the way. I mean, which is just like, I mean, the utter, you know, disrespect to all of us who dedicate our lives to this game. This man is a doctor and a 2700. He's, I think, the smartest grandmaster in the whole world. I'm joking about the disrespect. I'm just saying, like, he's insulting all of our intelligence. He's too smart for the rest of us. In this game, you know, he understands the task in front of him. Bassem, he's got to take a little bit of a risk against the young Kazakh. He plays knight f4, and then he tries to kick out his knight, and we have knight e3, and, you know, slowly black starts taking over the game, it seems like. But Ramzan just plays knight f3 and basically says, look, Bassem, you've overextended. You have all these pawns, and they're kind of juicy. I might take a bite out of one of them. Knight to g4. That was like vaguely Irish. Your pawns are juicy. I might take a bite out of one of them. I can't even do an Irish accent, but that just like sounded like it was, maybe that wasn't half bad. You're damn fucking right. There you go. Anyway, b3, queen c1, take, queen c4. And Ramzan has a very easy plan here. His plan is, I'm going to advance my pawn. Black goes to fully defend against this. And while you travel away from your king, I'm going to bait you in. Take, king g2, knight g5. And in this position, take, and I hit your knight. But what about rook takes d6? Look at this. If you play knight takes f3 in this position, I go queen c5, threatening rook g6 and a discovered attack on the queen, and the knight is still hanging. I think that was missed by Bassem, who now has two knights versus a rook. That's just winning for white. And Ramzan Jalmakhanov from Kazakhstan, young 20-year-old international master, begins the Grand Swiss campaign by checkmating pawn to g4. A pawn checkmate mating net against 2680 rated Bassem Amin and defeating a 2650. Ramzan is 2 out of 2. He has as many points as Fabiano Caruana. This is a ridiculous story. He doesn't even have a photo on chess.com because they don't even know who he is. Speaking of, we got to get photos for the players. Chess.com, please. My friends, the Grand Swiss, the storylines are amazing. We have Ramzan dominating as a 2400. We have Fabiano Caruana 2 out of 2 and 2800. Ali Reza is looking to cook. Hikaru on a little bit of a slow start, but he's got 7 more rounds to go. Anything can happen. This is anybody's tournament. I'm glad to be making recaps for you. If you have the book, I would highly appreciate giving it a nice review. I'm very, very proud of what I made. Friendly reminder about the book, if you're here and before you click off, do not buy this book if you are already at a high elo, if you are expecting for this book to teach you from start to finish. I am very open and transparent about what level the book is for. It says it. So if you're 1100 and it says the book is for like 0 to 1300, you're not gonna. But if you want to buy it to support, to be a part of this incredible journey of the book being created, like a piece of merch, one day maybe I'll sign it for you if I'm in town. That's why you should, or give it to a cousin who wants to learn chess for the first time. Gift it to a friend. That's the person who should buy the book. If you buy this book and get upset, you're too good for it. I saw one review already. You're doing it to yourself. Please. I appreciate those of you who have it so very much, and I will be back with more recaps of the Grand Swiss. And that's all I have to say. Get out of here.